I don't know what more we can do to Charlie Rose, except a public flogging. He's gone. He's not coming back to CBS News.
It was a chilling account in the Washington Post. 27 more women making graphic allegations of sexual misconduct against Charlie Rose, who was fired by CBS and PBS 5 months ago. There are accusations of groping, forcible kissing, exposing himself, and more. Rose limiting himself to a one-sentence response, calling the story inaccurate and unfair. Back to the biggest revelation, CBS management was warned of this conduct on at least 3 occasions and basically did nothing. Joining us now, Sarah Fisher, a media reporter for Axios. So Gayle King says, hey, there's nothing more we can do with Charlie Rose. Doesn't the network owe the public an accounting of what happened and why it was allowed to go on for so long, rather than for waiting for organizations like the Washington Post to come in and explain this?
Well, we're seeing that they're starting to do so. So they've made a few comments to the Washington Post, who did that report as well, saying that when it comes to those 3 instances in which managers were notified, all 3 of them have different peculiarities as to why we didn't hear about it. So the first instance was in 1986. We know that that person who they had reported about was anonymous. They didn't disclose the name. CBS says, we can't comment if you're not going to give us a name. The second instance with Chris Licht, they said that Chris went to Charlie directly, which in time was in line with the company's protocols, which is why it wasn't elevated.
He was a top producer there.
He was a top producer. Yeah. Yep, exactly. And that the third instance was with their current executive producer, Ryan Cadro, who's sort of disputing the account that we see in the Washington Post. So they're trying to come back and explain this, but as you can see, it's kind of nuanced, all of these issues.
Well, you know, some terrific reporting in this story, holding it up here. One of these women, Sophie Gator, was 23 years old. She says this is just a few years ago. She worked for 60 Minutes. She walked down the hall. Rose grabbed her butt. Quote from her is, people said what they wanted to you. People did what they wanted to you. And now you have another woman named Rhea Bravo, who was a source for the original Washington Post story about Charlie, writing this week, I would expect CBS executives to have known the man's secret was reliably as open as a Waffle House. So apparently there's a lot of chatter about this, which does raise questions, again, about CBS's knowledge or lack thereof.
Yes, but top executives continue to say that they did not know and that they weren't aware. One of the things that they'll tell you is that upon the time of his firing, there were no HR complaints that had been filed. One could assume, however, that potentially the reason there were no HR complaints that were filed is because, as we had mentioned, it was not part of the company's protocol to bring it to HR at the time.
Right.
So it's a very complicated situation, but yes, at this point, top executives say that they had no idea.
At PBS, the executive producer of Rose's show also ignored a complaint from a woman, according to this latest story. Now, 3 of these women have filed suit against Charlie Rose, involving their dismissals or their difficulties. And so it's so graphic, and this guy was such a big star for so long. I mean, doesn't CBS have to do more to restore confidence, to have an outside investigation, rather than just saying, you know, we fired the guy and now we're moving on?
They said a few times that they're trying to make some updates to their policies to take this stuff a lot more
seriously.
seriously.
What was your reaction as a woman to reading some of this about the groping and the exposing and the kissing and so many different women making those allegations?
It's hard. You want to know that if you're a woman, if you bring this up to your employer, that they're going to be able to help walk you through the best way to address this and that it wouldn't be ignored. I think some of the previous reporting about the PBS executive, who now says she deeply regrets not doing more, was particularly disturbing as a woman. If a young woman comes up to you, some of these girls are 21, 22, alleging misconduct from somebody who's 50 years their senior, you want to know that your employer is going to be taking that very seriously. And to hear that they're not is incredibly disappointing.
Yeah, that's the threat here, is almost all these women were in lower level jobs. They were in their early to mid 20s, and Charlie Rose was a superstar there. All right, Tom Brokaw, you know, we talked last week about allegations from former NBC reporter Linda Vester of forcible kissing on a couple of occasions. He wrote an angry letter denying that. He's forcefully denied it. So now there's another woman, former reporter named Mary Reinholtz, writing in the New York newspaper The Villager about what happened, she says, 50 years ago. Abruptly, she says to Brokaw, we can put that up, he was embracing me and giving me a French kiss. I pulled away, reminding him that he was married. Look, Tom is an icon in this business. I covered him for years. A lot of people respect him. But overall, this is receiving remarkably little coverage. Do you agree?
It's not receiving as much coverage, you're right. And I think one of the reasons could be that there's a ton of backlash against the reporting. You saw that there was a letter signed by over 60 female executives, former and current producers, saying that this is not right. I mean, some of the people that signed that letter were incredibly high level, including Andrea Mitchell, Kelly O'Donnell. So you can imagine that when there's that much backlash, it's harder for the media to confront the story. But I will say it doesn't make it any less important for coverage. I mean, anytime there's an allegation of sexual harassment, the media should be looking into it.
Right. I mean, it's great that Tom is colleagues are supporting him, but they don't necessarily know what happened in these particular instances, some of which are decades ago. Sarah Fisher, great to see you.
Good to see you.
Thanks for coming by.